Oh, wait, you're listening?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
You're
Listening
to Radiolab.
Radiolab.
Shorts! From
WNYC.
C? And NPR.
3, 2, 1. Hey there, I'm Robert Krulwich. Jad is on paternity leave. This is Radiolab, the podcast. And today, I thought I'd introduce you to a particular guy on a particular day in Manchester, England. It's 1952, and Alan Turing, a math professor, discovers that a number of things have disappeared from his home. Looked kind of like a burglary. He was missing a shirt, a pair of shoes.
An old pair of pants, maybe a compass.
It was stuff. It was just household stuff.
Nothing of any value.
That's Jan Levin and David Levitt. Both of them have written books about Alan Turing.
And so, being very literal-minded, he thought, well, what do you do when you're robbed? You call the police.
So the police come to his house, the detectives, he has this conversation, and they say, he's kind of a curious chap. They let him talk, and they're like, it's a real shame we're going to have to arrest him.
Who?
Turing.
Why would they have to arrest? They're just coming to...
Because he's effectively implicated himself in terms
Here's what happened. The police sat Turing down and said, who do you think made off with those things of yours? And he says to them...
He suspected the thief was an acquaintance of his boyfriend.
His boyfriend?
Yes.
See, at the time, there was a law in England
which criminalized, quote-unquote, acts of gross indecency between adult men in public or private.
So he told the cops that he was having sex with a guy? Was that why
he doesn't exactly say we're having sex, but he says enough that it's clear.
Huh.
He was never ashamed of being gay. This was just not something, again, that he understood what the fuss was about.
So what happened to him? Was he convicted?
Yeah, he's convicted, and he's...
What's his sentence?
Estrogen pills and implants, estrogen implants.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, chemical castration.
And when I learned this, I wondered if those policemen had any idea that the guy they were arresting was, first of all, one of the great minds of the 20th century, a war hero who single-handedly, almost by himself, shortened World War II by at least 2 years. And the questions he posed way back then are still, I think, the most provocative ideas I know. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, so let me back up to when he was a schoolboy.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the podcast author or individuals participating in the podcast and do not necessarily represent those of iHeartMedia, How Stuff Works, or its employees.
Christmas time, 1968. All was not calm. All was not bright.
Sergeant, could you briefly describe what apparently happened last night? We had a double homicide that took place out on a county road sometime after 11 o'clock. 16-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy.
How did this incident occur, apparently?
Well, they were shot.
Photographer Tom Ballmer arrived on the scene.
The night of December 20 was an interesting one. Photographers back then were ambulance chasers. We had radios with the local police and fire frequencies, and we followed what was going on. I remember a dispatch to Lake Herman Road in Benicia, and they said that there were 2 victims there, and they thought it was a murder-suicide. The woman there that was shot was fairly small in size, and they were thinking it was an adult and a child. That was what the original dispatch was, as I recall it. So I headed out that way.
A quick warning, there are curse words that are unbeeped in today's episode of the show. If you prefer a beeped version, you can find that at our website, thisamericanlife.org.
Casey's autistic. And she says it's puzzling, neurotypical people and how much they lie. And she's not alone.
Yeah,
in our support groups, that issue comes up a lot. For some people, it's very puzzling and they just don't understand the concept. And especially because so often lies are just completely transparent.
She gave me this example. When she worked in HR, they caught this guy who was having an inappropriate relationship with his administrative assistant. A naked picture of her was on his work computer. And still, he denied it. Kept lying.
It's just baffling to me. It's just, it's inexplicable. I don't understand the continuing in the lie. And I don't understand why they haven't learned at an earlier point that it's not productive, that this is not an effective tool for you.
Looking around on Reddit, we found a lot of autistic people writing about this exact thing. Here's somebody who posted saying, I recently realized that a lot of things I'd always categorized as lies are not seen that way by NT people, neurotypical people. Like, they say it knowing it isn't literally true, but they don't think of it as a lie because they don't expect others to believe it. For example, here's some things that I always thought were weird, inexplicable lies, and then there's a list. It was great to see you. Let's do this again soon. I hope you have a great holiday. You are so funny. I love your hairdo. Where did you buy that dress? I need to get one too. Oh, wow, that's very interesting. See you later. They continue. I've decided to start translating a lot of NT chatter from its literal meaning into a simple form of, hello, I want you to see me as friendly, so I am making friendly noises.
How you doing? My name's Steve Osborne. I was a New York City cop for 20 years. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just getting home from work. I'm late again, as usual. The night before, we caught a shooting. Two drug dealers get into a beef. One guy pulls out a gun, boom, 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 shoots the other guy in the face. We catch it. I end up running with it all night long, and I wind up doing a double. I walk in the door, and my wife's waiting for me. And she's got that look on her face. And she says to me, we gotta talk. I hate it when she says, we gotta talk. This is never good news for me. This means bad things are coming. And she says to me, I can't take this anymore. You know, I'm tired of being alone at night. I'm tired of sleeping alone. I just can't take it. It's getting to be too much. So what do? You know, I counter with my usual, you know, a couple of hugs and kisses. I love you too. You know, I miss you too. You know, I don't like having to work so much. It's my job. But this time she ain't hearing any of it. And she looks at me and she's real serious. She says to me, I want a dog. So as soon as I hear the word dog, I'm like, whew, man, that was close. This could have been... You know, this could have been really bad. You know, I wouldn't have been the first cop to get divorced, you know, because I was married to the job. And as soon as I hear that word dog, I'm like, yeah, I want a dog too, you know? And right away I start thinking, I'm going to take him to the park. We're going to play ball. We're going to throw the frisbee around. You know, we're going to wrestle with the stick. You know, I like going on hikes out in the woods. I'm going to get him one of those doggy backpacks, and me and him are going to go for hikes in the mountains. And I'm thinking, you know, at night when I'm working, this is good. I'll have a big dog in the house, for protection. So I says to her, great idea. What kind of dog you want? And that's when she puts her two hands out in front of her, about 12 inches apart, and she goes, one like this.
This is 99% Invisible. I'm Roman Mars. Britt Young is a geographer and tech writer based in the Bay Area, and she loves a good theme party.
My whole life I've done some silly themed parties. And when she says silly, she's not exaggerating.
Producer Vivian Leigh.
She told me about a party she threw once based on an obscure sitcom about a rural Canadian farming community. She also used to host annual Ragers in honor of Billy Mays, you know, that guy from the OxyClean infomercials.
Roman Mars here for 99PI.
But a few years ago, she threw her wildest party yet. It was an arm party.
Britt has what's called a congenital upper limb deficiency. In other words, she was born without the part of her arm just below her left elbow. This latest celebration was a farewell to her boring old prosthesis and a welcome home to her brand new multi-articulating bionic hand.
We had a friend who played bartender, and we had a bunch of arm-themed cocktails. There was Armageddon, Pink Armadillo, a bunch of things like that.
There were also arm-themed games like Arm Twister,
which was normal Twister, but anytime that you needed assistance, you could grab a free prosthetic arm to reach Yellow 5 easier or whatever.
She even christened the high-tech arm by cutting a cake with it.
I'm really trying to be Twitter famous, so please tweet it. And this is not gonna work. Here we go, yeah! You cut that cake.
Disgraceland is a production of Double Elvis. The stories about the mighty Led Zeppelin are insane. They were supposed followers of Satan and Aleister Crowley's dark arts. They traveled with a goon squad of ultra-violent hooligans. They raided and robbed drugstores to satiate their habits and divided and conquered both sides of the pond. They held groupies captive, literally. They defiled young women with, we'll get to that later. Led Zeppelin was led by the extremely talented and driven English guitar player Jimmy Page, an artist captivated by the occult and the potential dark power it unlocked. His vision for the band was simple: be bigger and more powerful than any other group. Pummel audience members and all comers with your music. Take no shit and take no prisoners. Leave the world rattling in your wake. Achieve a level of success previously unimaginable for anyone in the music industry. And do it all with a brand of glamour and mystique that'll live on long after you're done making music. Led Zeppelin did all of this and more, making, of course, great music along the way. And that music you heard at the top of the show, that wasn't great music. That was a preset loop from my Mellotron called Choir Falling Down BK2. I played you that loop because I can't afford the rights for My Love by Paul McCartney and Wings. And why would I play you that specific slice of puppy mullet cheese? Could I afford it? Because that was the #1 song in America on June 2nd, 1973. And that was the day Led Zeppelin embarked on a massive attendance-shattering American tour in their newly hired, decadent and powerful Boeing 720 aircraft known as the Starship, signaling that a new chapter in rock star excess and mile-high debauchery had begun. On this episode, stumbling choirs, mullet cheese, dark power, rock star excess, and Led Zeppelin. I'm Jake Brennan, and this is Disgraceland.
The desert seems vast, even endless. And yet, scientists tell us that somewhere, even now, there is snow. Welcome to Night Vale. The Night Vale Tourism Board's Visitable Night Vale campaign has kicked off with posters encouraging folks to take their family on a scenery-filled jaunt through the trails of Radon Canyon. Their slogan, "The view is literally breathtaking." Posters will be placed at police stations and frozen yogurt shops in nearby towns, along with promotional giveaways of plastic sheeting and rebreathers. And now, the news. Have any of our listeners seen the glowing cloud that has been moving in from the west? Well, John Peters, you know, the farmer, he saw it over the western ridge this morning. Said he would have thought it was the setting sun if it wasn't for the time of day. Apparently, the cloud glows in a variety of colors, perhaps changing from observer to observer, although all report a low whistling when it draws near. One death has already been attributed to the glow cloud. But listen, it's probably nothing. If we had to shut down the town for every mysterious event that at least one death could be attributed to, we'd never have time to do anything, right? That's what the sheriff's secret police are saying, and I agree. Although, I would not go so far as to endorse their suggestion to run directly at the cloud, shrieking and waving your arms just to see what it does.